Well, the Cardinals have a lot of things that they've got to figure out. They're in every game, and Kyler Murray, quite frankly, was never their quarterback. You're in year 3 of the program. You'd like to think by this point you've learned to win more than the Cardinals seem to have learned how to win.
You expect him to be the quarterback next year?
I'm worried about the Rams right now.
The Arizona Cardinals just officially gave up on Kyler Murray, and honestly, it might be the most predictable breakup in NFL history. Jonathan Gannon announced on Friday that Kyler Murray is done for the 2025 season. His foot injury from week 5 isn't healing, and the Cardinals are pulling the plug. Now, typically, I wouldn't find this to be very video worthy. Okay, Mike, Kyler Murray's injured. There's a reason why the Cardinals aren't playing him. But if you take a look at his practice footage from 3 weeks ago, his foot looks fine. He's good enough to go. And it gets even crazier. When Jonathan Gannon was asked if Kyler Murray would be the Cardinals quarterback in 2026, the man couldn't give a straight answer.
You expect him to be the quarterback next year?
I'm worried about the Rams right now.
And you could make an argument that I'm being melodramatic here, but that's a very simple question to answer. You paid Kyler Murray a max contract a couple of years ago. It's not the boldest thing to suggest that he's going to be your starter in 2026. It's not like you have a high draft pick quarterback on your roster that you're trying to protect. If you're paying attention to this situation, like really paying attention, you know that this has been coming for years, because the Kyler Murray era in Arizona hasn't just been disappointing, it's been a slow motion disaster that everyone saw coming, except apparently the people that were signing the check. So before we get to the content, I have a brief announcement to make. If you took my Thursday night football picks for my Instagram story, then congratulations on 3xing your money. The pick I gave on this YouTube channel unfortunately didn't hit. George Pickens didn't have a touchdown, but 2 out of the 3 legs hit. But over the past week, we are now over $2,000 made on Prize Picks, and I'm gonna keep giving you picks on my Instagram story and in my YouTube videos. First, to sign up for Prize Picks, make sure you use my promo code Mikerophone to get $50 when you make a play of $5 or more. And here's what I'm going with on Sunday. I have Matt Prater or Evan McPherson. One of them needs to make a field goal that's at least 50 yards or longer, and I have Shador Sanders getting at least 190 passing yards versus the Tennessee Titans. You can put down $50 to potentially make $250. I personally put down $40 to potentially make $200. Now, if you go in the description down below and you click that WAP link, we are profiting on a weekly basis over there. And I also give additional picks on my Instagram story at The Flight Mike. And thank you, Prize Picks, for sponsoring today's video. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Okay, so let's start with the craziness. Kyler Murray posted something on social media on Thursday that's got everybody talking. It's a picture of himself with James Conner, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Michael Wilson from an off-season workout. He just titled this "Weird Year." The caption, just 2 words: never again. Never again. Let that sink in, because we're about to break down exactly how we got here, why this marriage was doomed from the start, and where both sides go from here. And trust me, the contract situation and how complex it is alone is going to blow your mind. First, we need to go back to understand how dysfunctional this relationship has truly been, because the red flags weren't just waving, they were on fire. Do you guys remember the homework clause in 2022? Let me remind you, the Arizona Cardinals gave Kyler Murray a 5-year, $230 million extension. Massive bag, franchise quarterback money, but buried in that contract was something unprecedented, a clause requiring Kyler Murray to complete 4 hours of independent study every single week. No TV in the background, no Call of Duty, no scrolling on Instagram Reels, just sitting there on an iPad watching film. This was a big deal. Do you remember how Kyler Murray reacted to this?
To think that I can accomplish everything that I've accomplished in my career and not be a student of the game, it's disrespectful. It's almost a joke.
The fact that the Cardinals were so worried about their $230 million quarterback's work ethic that they literally put homework requirements in his contract, that's not something you do when you trust somebody. That's something you do when you're already having doubts. And it gets worse. The clause went public and everyone started roasting Kyler Murray. The memes were relentless. And you know what made it even more awkward? Murray told the New York Times the year before, and I quote, "I'm not one of those guys that's going to sit there and kill myself watching film. I don't sit there for 24 hours and break down this team and that team and watch every game because in my head, I see so much." So yeah, the Cardinals knew what they were getting. They just hoped they could contractually force him to change. Kyler Murray was furious. He called an impromptu press conference saying the whole thing was disrespectful.
I refuse to let my work ethic, my preparation be in question. I've put an incomprehensible amount of time and blood, sweat, tears, and work into what I do.
And as a result, the Arizona Cardinals eventually removed the clause from the contract after it became a massive PR disaster. But the damage was done, because here's the thing about NFL locker rooms. Once that kind of doubt is out there, it never fully goes away. Every bad game, every interception, every late season collapse, people were always going to wonder if Kyler Murray was doing his homework and breaking down film, or if he was loading up Warzone and trying to level up his Call of Duty account. And then, somehow, it got worse. On December 2022, Monday Night Football against the Patriots, Murray scrambles to his right, and then, non-contact injury. Down he goes, torn ACL, carted off the field in tears, season over, and suddenly, everyone's asking the same question. Can Kyler Murray come back from this? Because for a quarterback whose legs are such a huge part of his game, an ACL tear is terrifying. He missed the first 10 games of 2023. The Cardinals went 1-9 without him. Complete disaster. But when he finally came back in week 10 against the Falcons, he looked different. Not just physically, but mentally. Teammates said he was more open, more engaged, a better leader. Murray himself talked about the mental hurdles of coming back from the injury.
I just feel like I gained a new level of resiliency. Already felt like had that chip on my shoulder, never out of anything, never down. I always feel like I can win anything. But when you go through something like this, you find out really quick about, who you are and what you're about. So like I said, I think everything happens for a reason.
There was genuine optimism that maybe, just maybe, the ACL tear was the wake-up call that Kyler Murray needed. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Now I want to make sure you guys understand, the Cardinals really invested in Kyler Murray. Don't get me wrong, there were years that they made mistakes. They had the opportunity to pair Kyler Murray with his college wide receiver CeeDee Lamb, just like the Cincinnati Bengals did for Joe Burrow when they paired him with Jamar Chase. And instead, they drafted Isaiah Simmons, who ended up being a huge draft bust. But in 2024, they tried to make up for that mistake. Murray was healthy. The Cardinals drafted Marvin Harrison Jr. with the 4th overall pick, and this is a man who's the son of a legendary NFL wide receiver. Generational talent. The future couldn't be brighter. Murray played in all 17 games, the first time in his career he'd done that since his rookie year. And on paper, the numbers weren't terrible. Over 3,800 passing yards, 21 touchdowns, but the team went 8-9, missed the playoffs again, and the Murray-Harrison connection just never clicked the way everyone expected. Which brings us to this year. 2025 was supposed to be the prove-it season. Murray's 7th year in the league, Harrison's 2nd. Time to put it all together, and instead, everything fell apart. Murray played in 5 games before going down with a midfoot sprain in week 5 against the Titans. In those 5 games, he completed 68% of his passes for 962 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. It's not bad, but not the elite play you need from a guy that's making that kind of money. And then he got hurt, and the Cardinals have gone 1-6 without him. The Cardinals are 3-9, eliminated from playoff contention, and now Murray's done for the year because his foot just won't heal. But here's what's making this even messier. The whole time Murray was out, Marvin Harrison Sr. was publicly destroying the Cardinals' offense. The Hall of Famer said it's very hard to watch his son play in Arizona, said he can't relate to what the offense is doing, and then he dropped this bomb. If you put Marvin Harrison Sr. in his prime on this current Cardinals team, the Hall of Fame would ask for his jacket back. That's a father watching his son's career get wasted, and honestly, he's not wrong. Marvin Harrison Jr. has 40 receptions for 594 yards this season. For a guy who was supposed to be the next great receiver, that's disappointing, and now he's dealing with a heel injury too. Jonathan Gannon ruled him out for this week's game against the Rams. Everything in Arizona is broken, and here's where it gets really crazy, because even if the Cardinals want to move on from Murray, and all signs point to yes, it's going to cost them a fortune. Murray's contract has $36.7 million guaranteed in 2026. If they release him outright, they're looking at a cap charge north of $55 million. That's crippling. That's the kind of dead money that sets a franchise back for years. So what are the options? They could try to trade him, but who's giving up assets for a 28-year-old quarterback with an injury history who just got shut down for the season with a foot that won't heal? His trade value is basically zero. They could keep him and try to make it work with a new coaching staff because, let's be real, Gannon's seat is getting pretty hot right now too. But that honestly is like the equivalent of rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. Or they could just eat the dead money, move on, and hope they can find their next quarterback in a draft class that I don't think is that deep at the quarterback position. I mean, it's definitely not like a 2024 quarterback class, but we've seen great quarterbacks come from quarterback classes that weren't so deep, so it might be worth a shot. And look, I'm not the only one saying this. Adam Schefter responded to the shutdown news by asking where Kyler Murray will be in 2026. When Schefter's planting those seeds, you know the league is already preparing for a divorce. So how do we get here? How does a #1 overall pick with a Heisman Trophy and generational athleticism end up being the guy that nobody wants? Part of it is injuries. The ACL, the hamstring issues, now the foot. You can't build around a quarterback who's not on the field. Part of it is also coaching instability. Murray has had 2 different head coaches in Arizona. Cliff Kingsbury, who got fired after 2022, and then Jonathan Gannon. Different systems, different expectations, no continuity. Part of it is the organization itself. The Cardinals have been one of the most dysfunctional franchises in the NFL for years. One analyst literally called them the most irrelevant franchise in America's most relevant sports league. That's the environment Murray has been trying to succeed in. But let's be honest, part of it is Kyler Murray himself. The late season fades, the questions about preparation, the disappearing acts in big moments. Remember that playoff game against the Rams after the 2021 season? 137 passing yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, blown out. Murray once said he was blessed with the cognitive skills to just go out there and see it before it happened. But the NFL figured him out, and the tape suggests he never fully figured it back out. But here's the thing, Kyler Murray's career isn't over. Murray is only 28 years old. He'll be 29 when he hits the open market. That's still young for a quarterback, and despite everything, he's still shown flashes of being a legitimate starter in this league. The question is, who takes the chance? Maybe a team with a young coach who thinks he can unlock Murray's potential. Maybe a team that bet on the wrong quarterback and let 2 Pro Bowl caliber quarterbacks go in free agency despite both of them being on their roster last year. Maybe a team that's getting over the whole 9 thing from their starting QB and has a disgruntled wide receiver that's posting career lows despite being a future Hall of Famer in this league. That's probably the top team that comes to mind for me. When you sit back and think about it, there's so many teams that would take a flyer on a player like Kyler Murray. If it's not the Minnesota Vikings, the Pittsburgh Steelers almost always refuse to draft a young QB and start new. And Aaron Rodgers is probably going to retire after this season, so maybe they take a flyer on Kyler Murray. Murray was the first player in NFL history to have 70 touchdown passes and 20 rushing touchdowns before the end of his 3rd season. He's made 2 Pro Bowls. He was Offensive Rookie of the Year. The talent is there. It's always been there. The question is whether a fresh start somewhere else can bring it back out. Because in Arizona, whatever magic existed has been completely extinguished. And what about the Cardinals? Well, they're staring down the barrel of a full-scale rebuild. Jacoby Brissett has been serviceable as a backup, but he's not the future, he's a placeholder. If Arizona ends up with a top 5 pick, which is looking very possible right now, they could be potentially looking at their next franchise QB. And this time, maybe they won't need to put homework clauses in his contract. The Marvin Harrison Jr. situation needs to be figured out too. I mean, it doesn't really make sense if you take a look at the Arizona Cardinals offense. I mean, this is a team with a top 3 tight end and one of the most promising wide receivers in the league. Typically, you have a dual threat QB out there as well. You shouldn't be this bad offensively. It's clear that the offense needs a complete overhaul, and whoever's throwing the ball needs to actually target the guy that you spent a top 5 pick on. And Jonathan Gannon's seat is scorching. When the father of your star receiver is publicly torching your offense and your franchise QB just got shut down while cryptically posting never again on social media, your job security isn't exactly rock solid. So here's the bottom line. The Kyler Murray era in Arizona is basically over. Not with a bang, but with a whimper. A mysterious foot injury that won't heal. A coach who won't commit. A cryptic social media post that says everything without saying anything. 7 years, 2 coaching staffs, 1 playoff win, a $230 million contract that became a cautionary tale, and a never again that could apply to both sides of this divorce. Murray will land somewhere. The talent is too real for him to just disappear. But in Arizona, that chapter is closed. And honestly, it probably should have ended a long time ago. The Cardinals are about to enter a new era. Whether it's better than the one they're leaving behind depends entirely on whether they've learned anything from the Kyler Murray experiment. But based on their track record, I wouldn't bet on it. it, but that's just my take. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. Where does Kyler Murray actually end up? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.